Hello, Augies Worldwide. I'm Dave Kassler, amateur radio call sign KE0OG, here with another episode of Ask Dave. Today we're going to answer a question from Doug, K0YP, and his question goes about like this. I am grounding my station to 5 10-foot ground rods that are connected in parallel and spaced at random distances and no closer than 20 feet, presumably to each other. They will also connect to the ground rod for the load center to the house. That's what I usually refer to as the utility ground. Due to the design of the house, this will take a little over 200 feet of number 4, American wire gauge stranded copper wire. That's pretty thick. Normally we use number 6 for this job. This will also serve as the RF ground as well. The antennas will be connected to a dedicated ground off from the 3 legs of the tower, the antenna lift, and the antennas themselves. The one exception to this is the end-fed ZEP, which I have thought about connecting to the ground system described above. Your thoughts would be appreciated. All I can say is you are very well grounded, maybe more well grounded than you need to be. Let's look at his situation. He's got a house, and we're looking down on this. This is plan view. Okay. And he has a station. He's got 5 10-foot ground rods out here in some random configuration, and presumably they're connected by wire with compression fit if these are above ground, or if these are buried with the thermite connectors that will actually weld the copper wire to the copper cladding on the ground pole. The normal is 8 feet. Okay, and I don't know why you would go with 10 feet. I don't know why you feel the need to go with 5 grounds out here. It could be poor soil or something like that. If you get really poor soil, you can actually take 2 ground rods and lay them end to end and bury them to a couple feet. Okay, and then this is 16 feet from, 16 feet from here to here, and you can ground off here. You'll actually be in pretty good shape. Each one of these acts as half a ground rod because it's up near the surface. Or you can have an oofer ground that is part of the concrete slab. Now he has a tower here, and it's got 3 legs, okay? And he has, in a circle around here, 3 ground rods connected close to the concrete pad. The legs of the tower are connected to this, okay? These need to be connected in a circle with that number 6 bare AWG, American wire gauge, stranded. And again, I would use the thermite to connect these. This needs to be connected to this, okay? And you can just use this bare wire right here and bury it. It kind of acts like a ground rod itself being buried. But if you really want to go all out, like the Motorola book on grounding for remote communications facilities, you'd put a ground rod every 8 or 10 feet or so here and bury this whole thing. Use those thermite things to weld. That way you don't have to worry about corrosion under the ground. Okay? Well, you do. When I was in the Air Force, back in the late 1970s, we had a huge grounding field underneath the radar. It was kind of a crisscross ground, and we had a ground wire that went down to it. And one of the days, one of my airmen pulled up on that ground rod, and it just came right out in his hand. It wasn't really connected to anything under there. We reported it to headquarters, and they shrugged their shoulders, and that was that. Okay, now, this connects, you need something from here to here that will carry RF well. You've also got here for every, and I'm going to use a different color for antenna wires. The antenna wires can be brought down to here if you want and connected to a lightning arrestor, okay, and then brought along here. In fact, you can even put them in the same trench over to here. But definitely, whether or not you have this one, definitely you have a lightning arrestor on all your antennas right at the ground. Okay, now here's a case where a 10-foot ground might be nice because you can leave 2 feet above ground, which makes it easy to connect the lightning arrestors to the rod. Okay, and then they go into the house. Now, your, let's see, end-fed ZEP is an antenna very much like a J-pole, but you've got coax coming from that, again, to a lightning arrestor before you go into the house, okay? So you've got lightning arrestors here if you want them for each and every coax coming down. Also, you've got control cables to your rotator. There are surge protection devices that you can get specifically for rotator cables. You can get them from DX Engineering. And you will connect them. Best practice has one here. Okay, it's connected to the ground rod. Each of the wires is connected. These are actually surge protectors rather than spark gap lightning arrestors. And if you want, you can put them here too. If you want. There's one of those wires is grounded. You can certainly ground it to the ground that is here. Okay, now let's see if we've answered all of Doug's questions. 200 feet of 4. I don't know why you need 200 feet of 4 gauge. 4 American wire gauge stranded copper wire. That's heavy stuff and expensive stuff. And the normal standard is number 6. But talk to your electrician. Maybe because of the distance or the soil type, you need the better. Okay, the antennas will be connected to a dedicated ground off one of the 3. It's the same one that ought to come and bond that to that. And then, of course, you've got your utility ground, which may be some distance away. And you've got the buried copper wire, the bare copper wire. And if you really want to do this upright, you put in ground rods. You've got quite a fortune invested in ground rods. And what you can do is take this down below the surface, dig your trench for your number 6 wire, and use those thermite things to couple this, then bury it. And you're in good shape. Now, the Motorola book, if this were a dedicated remote communications facility, you would actually have a ground all the way around the building with ground rods connected here and then connected to the building, okay? And then inside, there's a single point ground. Check out my Ask Dave video number 8. Okay. I think that will answer all of your questions. You can do up grounding as fancy as you want. I don't know why you've got all this. A single ground rod will do. You are best to bond this to this, okay, and this to this. You've got to do that. You can, if you really want to go all out, put in these extra ground rods. And then what that does, it means if this, suddenly there's a nearby lightning strike, and this gets highly charged, all of the grounds in the house stay at the same potential. They go up in potential and come back down, but they do it together. So that's how it doesn't blow out your equipment in your house. If you had lightning rods on top of the house, I assume they connect in similarly, but I've never done lightning rods, so I won't speak to that. Okay, so Doug, I hope that helps. If you're in Colorado, you've probably got really bad soil. And this type of thing will help you have a very good ground. And again, this right here, make sure that the connector between them, if you want this to serve as your RF ground, number 6 is nice, but better would be like 1-inch strap copper going around, because that has more surface area and these high frequency waves travel on the surface. I still think you would do fine with just one ground rod there. You need 3 at the tower, and all that needs to be bonded. Each tower leg should be separately grounded, but then there should be a circle around there to bond all of those together. So there you have it. I hope you find that helpful. To help feed the YouTube algorithm for which videos to suggest, I ask that you please subscribe. If you don't want to be pestered with announcements or anything, just don't click the bell. But I would encourage you to click the bell so that you can watch more videos. Please like the video, and please share it with friends. Also, if you would like to help the channel along financially, you can do so by going to dcastler.com/support, which has a variety of ways to do that. And until the next time we meet, 73.